Well, hello everybody out there in YouTube land. How's everybody doing? Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully everybody's feeling well. And hopefully everybody's having a marvelous time out there in YouTube land and in other places as well. I've come to share a little story. You know how people say that there's no such thing as fairy tale creatures, there's no such thing as the boogeyman and all those kind of things, right? Well, I didn't believe any of that malarkey. I didn't believe any of that. In fact, I used to go out in the woods a lot. I used to explore different places, and I'd love to go, you know, I'd love to go in places where people have never been to, where modern man hasn't really set foot on, as far as I know. You know, I like going back in the deep woods and camping out and spending the night. And, you know, I love doing all that. Or at least I used to. Well, it all started. It all started in the Appalachian Mountains. If you guys don't know where that is, I think it's up in southern part of the state, I believe. Appalachian. Somewhere up there. Can't remember exactly because it happened quite a bit ago. And anyway, I just decided, why not go to the Appalachian Mountains? Because, I've never been there before. And I figured, you know what? Let's go up there. I'll drive up there. And we'll make a camping trip out of it. And we'll camp there for about a week. Maybe do some fishing and stuff like that, So that's what I did. I went up there by myself, you know, normal time. I packed up all my gear, packed up, you know, tent, sleeping bag, um, various things for camping, all that kind of stuff. I piled it up in the truck and, took off down the road. Took a while for me to get there. And, well, on the way there, it was around, because I decided to drive straight through, straight through to my destination, no rest stops, no nothing. So, in the midst of me driving, I'm starting to literally, smack myself in the face to try and, keep myself awake. And so, anyway, hold that thought. I will be right back. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a restroom break. But anyway, back to my story. Back to what I was saying. Like I said, I took a trip to the Appalachian Mountains. It seemed nice, but on the way there, I noticed it was around midnight. And I noticed that there was some kind of a creature. I couldn't quite make it out. But there was something hunched over. And it looked like it was trying to pick something up off the road or doing something. And I just quickly, glanced at it. And then when I finally stopped, I stopped the vehicle, came to my senses, then it was gone. It disappeared. I'm like, okay, my eyes must be. And you could tell I'm starting to stutter because this is actually a pretty, it was pretty hair raising, Because think about it, I'm driving at midnight. There's nobody on the fucking road. And then all of a sudden, this thing pops up out of the middle of nowhere. And then when I stop the vehicle to check out what it was, it disappears. I'm like, what the hell, So eventually, I found me a rest stop. And I just stopped. I had to get some sleep. I was pushing myself way too far. And I was like, dude, I've got to get some rest. I have to get some rest. So I pulled the truck over. And naturally, I got out of the truck to relieve myself, of course. And, I hung out there. The rest of the night went kind of quiet. Nothing bad, nothing out of the ordinary. I woke up the next morning, and got the sleep out of my eyes, got me something to drink and stuff like that. And then, went on about my business. So I drove and I arrived at the edge of the mountain range. So from there, I decided to go on foot. So I parked my vehicle, locked it up, and I thought, no, maybe everything was going to be fine. Maybe everything was going to be good. Maybe nothing bad was going to happen. So I left my vehicle there and I went to go about and I picked out a camping spot. And I said, well, it was a spot, kind of out in the deep woods. But I noticed something that I kind of shrugged off. But I noticed one thing. I couldn't hear any crickets. I couldn't hear any birds chirping. The whole entire forest was silent. You couldn't even, it was so quiet that you can literally hear the pine cones dropping down. That's how quiet it was. And I'm like, this is odd. Because usually you hear birds chirping, usually, sounds of nature, blah, 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 blah. But this time, everything was dead quiet. Like dead quiet. And I didn't quite understand. I really didn't. And so, anyway, I shrugged that off and, I cooked me some breakfast, did a little fish, found a little fishing hole, did a little fishing, blah, 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 blah. Nature hikes and all that. And I come back, and I got some wood for a fire, stoked up a fire, roasted a few marshmallows, just normal camping stuff, having fun. And I go to get settled down, and I hear something crashing through the edge of the tree line. So I jumped out. So I slowly got out of my tent, flipped my flashlight on, turned the flashlight, nothing was there. But I kept hearing that noise. Something crashing through the edge. It just stayed on the edge of the trees. Didn't go any further. Just stayed on the edge of the tree line. I didn't see anything. And so that was over with. Then the next day, I look up towards the edge of the tree line where I was looking at the night before, night previous. And I began to see like branches broken. Branches broken and, things not looking right. And I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to be feeling a little bit uneasy. Y'all know that I've got paranoid schizophrenia. Really, really bad. And when something's not right, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to panic. So that's exactly what I started to do. My mind started playing tricks on me. And I started thinking about all this and all that and blah, 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 blah. But I managed to calm myself down and say, you know what? I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm overreacting. Let's just calm this down and have a good time. We're only going to stay here one more night and then be done with it. Because I've got to go back anyway because, I only picked the weekend to take off and all that stuff. And anyway, later on that night, I heard the same crashing, what it sounded like close to the tree lines. Okay, I'm back. But anyway, I heard another, the same crashing close to the tree line like I heard before. Only this time, it got close enough to where I heard that it sounded like something was walking through the campsite. Now, I didn't move because I figured it may have been a bear or something like that. So I didn't, I didn't move. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, look, if this, whatever it is going to get in, it's going to get, I'm either going to stab it with my knife or pump it full of lead, because I had my pistol right with me. So I had my knife ready, and I was waiting for it to come in so that I could freaking stab it if I had to. Luckily, I heard more, same footsteps all around the tent, all around the campsite. And I didn't think anything of it. I was actually scared. No kidding. I mean, I'm sorry, Beth. I was actually terrified. No joke. I was scared. I didn't get any sleep that night. It's really difficult for me to talk about because, Jesus Christ, this actually fucking happened. And it's really, really hard to talk about. So, but I'm sitting there with my pistol underneath my sleeping place and my knife ready for anything. And I sat up all night. Pretty soon, the footsteps trailed off back into the woods again. And I guess whatever it was decided to leave me alone for the rest of the night. And I seemed to be, I was okay, but I was terrified. I got no sleep. I was scared to death that whatever the fucking thing that was going to break through my fucking tent and fucking maul the fuck out of me. So I had to be ready. I had to be fucking ready. So eventually, the next morning came in. And me, I had gotten no sleep, nothing. I'm sitting there wide awake with my pistol underneath and my knife in my hand, just stupefied because I was scared. Think about it. I was by myself. I had nobody there. If something was to happen to me, no one would even know I was even gone. Until later, yeah. So I had every right to be scared. I had every right to be paranoid. And the next day, I wake up. I see tracks all over my campsite. All over my campsite. My stuff was trashed everywhere. And I'm like, what the fuck? I guess a bear got in here or something. But I looked at those tracks. Those tracks did not look like no goddamn bear. You know, I had been experienced in the woods long enough to figure out that no, that's not a bear track. It was something else. Now, my first thought was to pack up and get the fuck out of there quickly. But I decided, no, I'm not going to let this thing defeat me. I'm going to fight it, by golly. I'm going to fight it. So here's what I did. I packed up my tent nice and neatly. I packed up everything nice and neatly so that if I had to get out of there, there was a way for me to get out real quick. So the last night was spent in the back of my truck. So I'm sitting there with a sleeping bag, you know, under the stars, just waiting. And don't forget, I forgot. At that time, I didn't have nothing on me. I didn't have my pistol with me or anything. In fact, I left all that crap in the cab of the truck, locked up. So if anything was going to happen to me, I was going to be fucked. But I waited. I waited. And I waited. And I waited. Till finally, again, I heard it crashing through the trees. Through the tree line, I heard the crashing again. I heard the familiar footsteps through the campsite. Now, here's something that I didn't expect to happen. Whatever that thing was, it started coming towards my truck. And I could hear it lightly scraping around, which sounded like something like claws scraping around the body of the vehicle. Just the lower side, you know. Me, I was completely and utterly terrified. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. I was fucked so bad. I was literally paralyzed by fear. Finally, when it sounded like the creature or whatever it was had wandered off somewhere else, I quickly got out of the cab of my vehicle very quickly and expeditiously. I got out of the cab of my vehicle and I got out of the back of my truck, unlocked it quickly, crawled into the cab of the vehicle, and flipped my lights on. And that's when I saw it. This thing looked half human and half something else. It just stared at me with those cold black eyes. Me, I backed my truck up and I floored it forward, almost hitting the thing. But I didn't care whether I hit it or not. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. And I drove out quickly. Not knowing that the creature was astronomically fast. And it was trying to follow me, trying to keep up with me. So then I floored it faster and faster and faster. Till finally, when I ran out of the woods and onto the main highway, it stopped. And I kept going full bore. I didn't care. I kept going, just driven by adrenaline. I kept going and going and going and going and going and going and going. I didn't care. Till I got to civilization, till I got to something that was familiar. Now, I wasn't going to report this to the police or the local officials, because they would just think I was crazy and, try and put me in a nuthatch. So I kept it to myself for the longest time. I kept it to myself. And even to this day, I never went back to that spot on the Appalachian Mountain, ever. Because I knew that there was a creature there that did not want me there at all. And I've been avoiding it ever since. But anyway, like I said, I've been avoiding that thing ever since, avoiding that area ever since. And my advice to all of you out there, if you're ever traveling on the Appalachia Trail, beware of where you camp. Beware of where you are, because you never know who or what could be watching. Thank you very much for listening to my story today. I hope you guys hope you guys subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for listening.